Welcome to the show, everybody. I absolutely love my show. I say that almost every time I, introduce the show to everybody. And the reason why is because of the great information that people get out of listening on the show, of all the people that are on here. And I'm excited about bringing on my first guest, who has now been on with me almost 5 years. I think even, if not more now. I don't even know. I have with me Anna Von Straussenburg, and she is the owner of Anna Von Straussenburg CPA. Anna, thank you so much for being my supporter and being on the show for as long as you have. And tell everybody a little bit about yourself. It's so important. I like them to be able to, hear a little bit about the guest before we go into what you want to talk about.
Well, thank you, Carol. It's always a delight to be on this show. Well, I kind of call myself a backdoor accountant. I actually started off in the teaching profession, but it just wasn't a good time for teachers, and I worked for a private school for a while, and I was kind of unhappy, and my husband said to me, well, I think you ought to go into business. He goes, who else does their family budget on a spreadsheet? And mind you, this was back in the 90s, early 90s, and it was Lotus 123. And so I went around and applied just at a few places and interviewed at an accounting firm, and it just seemed like the right fit. So I started going back to college and studying accounting, and eventually I set myself a goal to become a CPA by my 40th birthday. And I did. I became a CPA shortly after my 40th birthday. So.
And you know what? You're really good. You are a numbers person. I hate to say it, I'm going to just say it. I'm going to do this for you. You also are proud the fact that you are a little bit of a nerd, right? And that's good when you're looking for a good CPA. And but you also, to have been working where you were working and started working at, to have the owner, I think it's kudos to you to come up to you and say, I would like to have you buy my business. That's pretty wonderful.
Yes, yeah. When I moved to Arizona, I started working for a firm about a year after I moved here. I kind of did a little bit of freelance work because I wanted to travel. But I looked up at this building in Mesa, and I said, wow, that would be a nice place to work. And lo and behold, I find the job ad, and actually my recruiter had also found it. And so and the boss got 2 applications from me, and he was like, wow, this is interesting. He said, the recruiter sent me your resume, and you sent me your resume. So, and he called my old boss and got a really good recommendation, and so he hired me. And one of his sons is an accountant, but not a CPA. His other son is a CPA, but neither of them wanted to take over the business. And he said, well, I think you'd be a really good fit. He goes, you just take like a duck to water when it comes to accounting.
Yeah. And you love what you do. You're passionate about it, helping people. And what people I want people to know about Anna too, is that she makes you family. This is you become her family, and she teaches you. It is not just about bringing in your taxes, and we're going to talk a little bit about what to do with all of that, being that tax season is around the corner here right now. That you really do not only just take them by the hand, but you really teach them about their numbers, because why is that so important for them to know?
Well, when it comes to a business, it's very important for them to know their numbers, to know, how if they need to make changes in their business model, if they can do things to improve it, or if they see that they're making a lot of money in one certain area, well, maybe they might put more resources into that. And so it's very important for a business owner to be aware of what's going on in the business. And even things like, well, somebody said, well, I must be losing money. I don't have any cash. And I said, well, you don't have cash because you got too many loans. And so sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news, but I've learned to toughen up, and sometimes I'll sit across from somebody and I say, well, I need to tell you what the real rules are, and then we'll discuss on how you're gonna implement them, you know.
That's interesting that you could do that with people, because so many people don't, right? So many of the CPAs, they really don't do that. Now, today I know that you wanted to talk about some things that you're always a researcher and you get a lot of information that comes to you, but you wanted to talk about tips for choosing a tax professional.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna hold up my paper here because I might refer to it, but I got a newsletter from the IRS, and I get a lot of newsletters from the IRS and from many other resources, the Society of Accountants, the AICPA, all kinds of ones from Thomson Reuters, and many different companies send me newsletters. So I find so many interesting things, and this I thought was really great. So the first tip, they say availability. Choose a preparer that will be there year-round. And one thing, a lot of those tax services like H&R Block or Liberty Tax Services, they're only open during tax season. And I am open year-round. There's always somebody at my office. We're always working with our clients. I like to help them do some tax planning at the end of the year. So even when we're not preparing taxes, we're still looking at clients' books. I try to look at them 3 times a year if I can, so that I can guide them as they go along. Consistent service fees, well, we charge by the hour, so it depends on how complicated a tax return is. Well, and some people say, well, why don't you just charge flat fees? And my answer to that is, if you're paying a preparer a flat fee, that motivates that preparer to do the job the quickest they can, and maybe accuracy suffers. In fact, most likely accuracy will suffer, because I have taken on clients whose preparers say, oh, they only charge me blah, 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 $350 or $200. And then I said, well, do you realize for that money you spent, you did not get accurate returns? I said, I can just take a quick look at it and see mistakes right off the bat. And then they say, well, maybe, that saying you get what you pay for is true. So that's one of those things. IRS e-file, well, most preparers that prepare more than a certain amount of returns have to e-file, are required to e-file, so it'd be surprising that somebody doesn't. Good preparers ask for records and receipts. Good preparers are qualified. I am a CPA, so I am qualified. I also take additional tax courses every year, required to take at least 40 hours. And then, complete returns. Well, it says never sign a blank return. Of course, you shouldn't ever sign a blank return. Review the returns before finalizing them, and we have a 2-person system. One person prepares it and somebody else reviews it. So there's always 2 sets of eyes, if not more. And accurate account information. Make sure a refund will go directly to the taxpayer's bank account. That's very important. And, and being accurate. And that's one of my things. I pride myself on being accurate.
Well, let me give you another tip. I'm going to give everybody another tip. You want to talk to somebody like Anna, because she's all about excellence and integrity in accounting, and each one of these things that you need to watch out for, Anna already does. She makes sure that she does everything that is on the up and up. That's something that we all have talked about before, but she's all about making sure that she's doing for you the best job that she can do. I know that you guarantee your work as well.
I do. I stand by my work. If we make a mistake, we'll cover the penalties. Now, if somebody doesn't tell me something, your tax return is only as good as the documents and the information you provide.
Well, we're going to go to a break, and we come back. We're going to talk further. Her phone number to call is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. We're going to keep on going in here.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll say your information again.
Oh, of course, I know you always do.
Yeah.
I know I went a little long,
That's
but
okay.
I figured we had more time today.
It's
so.
fine, and you can still even talk more if you want.
No, I
about
got
it.
that.
Okay.
I got through the whole list.
But for you, Anna, I think that what people need to understand is that there are people out there, different, obviously CPAs, that everybody does things differently, but I want people to understand most about you is how you care about them. You will show them where they're lacking, where they can maybe even, you may have people turn around and make more money than they've ever made before by working with you.
Yeah, or even, and sometimes I even have to tell somebody the bad news, like, well, your last preparer did not prepare your tax return correctly. We probably should amend it, and I give the person the choice to go back to the previous preparer. I love the work, but, it's easier for the previous preparer to amend it, but I tell them what's wrong, and.
But you see, that's nice of you that you even do that,
Yeah.
right?
Right, yeah, cause I found somebody's like, oh dear, they had all these partnerships and they were real estate partnerships. And the person showed them all as being active, and I said, are you active? And she goes, no, they're just investments. And I said, uh-oh, they reported them incorrectly, but that's okay, I mean,
But then they come to you because they know that you are somebody that
Yeah.
knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or doesn't rush.
I don't rush, yeah. I had clients try to pressure me into rushing, and I regretted the times I have rushed.
Yeah.
Cause it wasn't the best outcome, but if we do our work, the way we do it, and we have our process, we have much greater likelihood of everything coming out correct.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're human, we make some mistakes, but very rarely, because
Right.
there's always two sets of eyes. And then even my administrative assistant who assembles the tax returns, she's gotten aware enough that she'll say, hey, something doesn't look quite right. And say, can you look at this? And I'll say, oh, you are right, there's something we need to make a change. And she'll say, hey, this person got owed money, but they don't have any estimated tax payments. And I said, uh-oh, we better get them some estimated tax payments, because we don't want them to be penalized in the future.
Right.
And so,
Right.
so we always, have those things in mind, so there's always several sets of eyes on everything.
That's good. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Anna Von Straussenburg. She's the owner of Anna Von Straussenburg CPA, all about excellence and integrity in accounting. And one thing that you talked a little bit about is we were talking about how tips for choosing a tax professional. Having somebody who is as accurate and as caring as you are, I think people need to understand that also, tax season is not just in April or March, April. It's way all year round, especially if you own a business. You do personal and business.
Oh, yeah.
Want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I do both personal and business returns. I am actually certified in 3 states. I'm certified in California, Arizona, and New York. And but I can, as a CPA, you're licensed, you can do taxes for anybody anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have clients from Florida to Alaska and all kinds of states in between.
Now, her phone number to call, write this number down. It's 480-964-4030. It's 480-964-4030. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She does free consultations. She does do second opinions. We were just talking about that during the break. And her website is ArizonaCPAs.com. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and we were talking during the break that we have, a system. Now, everybody in this day and age knows there's like the 2-step verification of getting into the computer, which is kind of a pain, but they have to send you a text message. Well, we kind of have that little system in our office, because we have a 2-step process where the person who prepares it hands it off to somebody to review every tax return. And then we hand it off to our administrative assistant to print it. And so there's not just the preparer doing it, there's 2 more sets of eyes that go on that tax return. And so we really try to minimize any errors, and it's so important, you know, because we have wonderful software, but software is not always perfect.
Right, but the one thing about you is that you stand by your work, and
I
that's
do.
what's important for people to know too. And you've got, the other thing that I know that you love to do is you like complicated tax returns, you like that, you wanna talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I enjoy the challenges, like if somebody has something like incentive stock options, well, there's a complication to that. You need to know how to look for the basis. And by the way, I've had clients that came in to me and they had done their own returns and they didn't calculate the basis correctly, so they ended up getting some money back when I amended their returns.
Now, you brought up a good point, people doing their own taxes.
Yeah.
How many times, when you have been taking a second look at somebody's taxes, how many times do you find that they're wrong and that you can actually get the money back?
I'm gonna say 99% of the time.
Wow.
I did have somebody that came to me and they actually knew they had made errors in the return, but I didn't give them money back. The reason they knew they made errors is the IRS had reviewed the return and discovered the errors and said, well, you need to amend your return. And so I did amend their return for them. They did end up owing more, but they would have been better off if they'd come to me in the first place, because, you know, since it was late, they ended up owing penalties too.
So,
And because she tried to do it herself.
well, write the number down. It's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Arizona CPAs with an S.com. Let's go to time, now it's time for people to prepare for tax season.
Yeah, it's really important for people, you know, I recommend that people get a file folder or an envelope and start putting their tax things in. Everybody should have their W-2s now and 1099s, except for from things like brokerage accounts. Brokerage accounts tend to come out a little bit later, but as they come in, gather them up. And, you know, if you think you might have enough to itemize, which is harder these days, make a list of your medical expenses and your charitable expenses and, you know, maybe any kind of property tax you paid. You know, put down, you know, start compiling a list, because you never know. You know, some people, well, they've got big mortgages, so they may go, you know, and if it's a single person, they may go over that $14,000 mark and be able to itemize, so.
Well, the other thing, it's good to sit down with you because you do an extensive consultation with them. You get to talk to them a bit, and you love doing that because you've said before in the past, you know, be sitting with somebody and talking to them, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm having a baby," or what have you. And now you find out, "Oh, you're having a baby? Well, you know."
Yeah, we need to plan. You know, we need to plan for that for next year and put it on. You know, you need to give me all the information, the child's birth date and the social security number, and because surprisingly, it sometimes happens that people forget to tell you that.
Isn't that funny?
You know, they expect that we know it. So, one of them was really funny. It was my boss's son when he was back east, and we still do his tax returns. And, you know, my boss handed me the stuff to do the tax return and forgot to tell me he had a new grandchild.
That's pretty funny.
And Dad just had forgotten, and so his son gets a return, he goes, did you forget my new baby? So,
that's funny.
we still laugh about it, because I went over to their house for Christmas this year, and we were all laughing about that story, so.
Now, I also want to talk about people that, so we're going to go back to this. I don't know if there's anything more that you want to say, but I do know that you also love to work with people who own property.
Yeah, I'm really familiar with rental real estate, and I enjoy doing those kind of returns that have rental real estate. And yeah, it's just kind of a passion of mine, so I'm really good at that. And the other thing I forgot to mention is I'm also really good at multi-state returns. So people have moved here from a different state. I'm well versed in that. I got lucky a few years ago, got some really good experience, because I had a client that, was in at least 20 different states. I think one time, because of the city returns, I think we filed 32 different returns.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of returns. It was it was a couple reams of paper when we had to print it out, because
Wow.
I think back when we did it was back before electronic filing was really as common as it is now. So not all states accepted it back in that day, and so we had to ship off a couple of boxes of stuff for the poor client.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are a lot of people who do live in multiple states, and, you know, it's very important that you get with somebody who is well-versed in taking care of you like that. In terms of the preparing what to do, besides just getting everything and making lists, is there anything else that you want to tell them that they should, you know, prepare for?
Well, there are some things you can do to minimize your taxes or kind of redirect them. In Arizona, there's a lot of state tax credits. There's, they call it the charitable tax credit, which used to be called working poor credit, and you can get a fairly substantial credit for that, and that comes right off your tax bill. So you can, you know, donate to an organization rather than paying it to the government. There's school tuition credit, and there's public school tax credit, so that's one thing that you can do before April 15th. You can still make those donations and reduce your 2024 tax liability. So that's one important thing.
Yeah.
You can also donate to IRAs, and all before April 15th.
I bet you a lot of people don't think that they can still do that this year till the April 15th, because most people think that that had to have been done last year, but that's not the case.
Yeah, you just have, the one thing with donating to IRAs, whether it be a Roth or a traditional one, is you have to have had salary. You have to be paid as an employee, and you can only contribute up to the amount of wages you've had.
Now, you can call her direct at 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She works nationwide. She also does second opinions. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She's all about excellence and integrity in accounting. And right now, it's a great time to come and sit down and talk and have that conversation with her, have that consultation, and get yourself a fabulous CPA. Again, that's 480-964-4030. You can check her out on her website, which is ArizonaCPAs.com. Again, all about excellence and integrity in accounting. And one thing I know about Anna is she cannot tell a lie to save herself, and she's just all about just being honest, upfront, and does excellent work. She even guarantees her work. Check her out. It's ArizonaCPAs.com. Hang tight. We're going to be back in just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, am I doing okay?
Yeah, you're doing just fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. What else do we need to talk
Well,
about?
we'll
Anything?
talk a little bit when we come back. I think
This is the hard break.
Do you want me to split this up, or do you just want it all in one track still?
If you can
Yeah,
run
we
it
do it.
online, you might as well.
Okay,
I'm gonna
I'll keep
run,
on.
keep on running.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll keep it on one then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit what the difference between a self-employed person and an employee is.
Okay.
Yeah, and,
Employed person.
yeah.
And
And if we need more time, we can talk a little bit about LLCs, because there's always so many
LLCs.
misconceptions.
self-employed person and an employee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gotcha. By the way, I really like the lipstick.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really pretty.
Yeah, I was kind of debating whether I liked it, but it's one I don't wear very often.
It's different, but it's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Big Apple.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't consider that called that.
No.
Because it's not red, it's orangey.
No. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be redder than it is, I think, but it just
Sometimes that happens with
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah.
They change on your skin.
Yeah, and things tend to pull warmer
Yeah, me
on
too,
you.
me
Yeah.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you must be getting super, super busy.
We are,
Yeah.
yeah, the individual returns are starting to trickle in, and the business returns, most of my businesses go on extension.
Yeah.
There's one guy that usually comes in, and he should be coming in soon. But a lot of them, just because they need to catch up on their bookkeeping.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm actually working on, gotta finish up an amended return for a client, and I need to reach out to.
How about
the
that
bookkeeper.
one that you got that was the big, big, big one?
We're working on that one, we
That's
got it in
awesome.
early, so,
That's
yeah,
good. I'm happy
So-
on
always juggling different things, so.
that. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the Better Business Bureau, somebody actually saw my Better Business Bureau listing. I was very surprised, I was like,
Well, they
oh.
might have been looking for someone that is rated, you
That's
know, a
what she
lot
did.
of
She
times.
looked at that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what she was looking for,
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say it,
yeah.
because I think it's important for people
Yeah.
to know that you are, because it's an credibility, and for you too, I mean, being nominated for
Yeah.
the Torch Award.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a notification that I've been nominated yet for this award.
When does it usually come out?
Right about now.
Well, you
Yeah,
might.
yeah, I haven't heard anything yet, but who knows?
So what else do I have to do?
Yeah.
Today's trend watching and fiscal fight is raging on Capitol Hill these days as both the House and
Yeah, it seems like it takes businesses several times of being nominated before they actually win it.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
because I hear the guy that I use, the company I use for my plumbing and heat and air conditioning, and they've been nominated several times, and I don't think they've ever won it.
Really?
And I think they're so good. But,
I would think that it's not a big pool, you know, that it's small.
yeah, they do group it by business size.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
By size?
So I'm in the smaller, the very
Right.
small category.
Right, well, a lot of people are probably.
Yeah.
his wishes in the first round of legislative activity going on Capitol Hill. It's also critical for the financial markets. Any real push to increase the size of annual deficits and the national debt could be rejected by the bond market, something the president would have to contend with.
Today has been a funky day. Well, I got a little bit, I got a sick, you know, yeah. And I'm not like,
Yeah.
you know, I got so much right now going on.
I had a cold last week, but luckily it was very short-lived.
Well, you look really
I'm
good.
good, thanks.
For you, with what you do, I don't even know if I've ever asked you this. What is the favorite thing that you do? Most favorite thing that you do with your work?
With my work.
I've never asked you that personally too, but you can tell me if you want.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Okay, when you get people money back,
Yeah, when I give people money back, I like that, yeah.
or when they don't have to pay as much
Yeah,
that they thought they
yeah.
were gonna have to pay?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Networking Arizona is also brought to you by .com Marketing, bringing you a unique blend of digital and radio, and by
That is not supposed to be the right, comeback. I gotta talk to you about that.
WCIBroker.com.
So, welcome back, everyone. We had a little extra time today, so I decided I would give it to Anna. Yeah, I mean, Anna has been coming on my show for so long that I just thought this would be nice for you to be able to have a little extra time to talk. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between employees and self-employed people. Unfortunately, sometimes employers misclassify people, or, you know, people want to be treated as a self-employed person, but, you know, depending on the situation, A, it might not be legal, and B, you might be paying more in tax than you have to, because a self-employed person pays both halves of the Social Security and Medicare taxes. So they're paying the employer portion and the employee portion. So now as an employee, your employer will withhold one half, but they have to match it. So in other words, you're getting less money at the end of the day. when you're self-employed, because you're having to pay that extra part of tax on your tax return.
Wow.
And some people don't really quite understand that, and so, but, then, there's deductions you can take against that, and in some cases, but what makes a difference between an employee and a self-employed person? Well, a self-employed person typically has a business set up, and they work for multiple people. They don't just have one employer, versus an employee, they're working for one person. And then the other thing to look at, well, is, are you providing your own equipment, or is the employer providing the equipment? Does the person you're working for dictate your hours? Typically, if you're self-employed, you set your own hours, so that's an important distinction. And, you need to look at all these details, because if they're misreporting it, they can be liable for paying back taxes. And if the IRS audits them, the IRS will many times want to reclassify people as employees and make the employer pay the employment tax.
Mm.
So employers should be aware that you need to tread lightly when you're classifying somebody as a 1099 person, as they usually say, or non-employee person, versus an employee.
Well, I think it's really important that people don't do these things on their own. A lot of people do. If it's a simple, tax return, then yeah. But when you own a business, right there it changes. And I'm just going to say this just because I say it now almost every time you're on, because you ended up working with my daughter, and even though my daughter is she's 29 years old, and she is her own business for herself.
Yeah, and some people, like your daughter, have both things where they maybe work a W-2 job and they have another business on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a little bit of both. And for her business, we were able to help her out and write off a couple of things. And that was definitely, with her business, she does work for multiple companies and employers, using the word loosely. So she is definitely qualified as a self-employed person, and, she has to provide sometimes, her own transportation, she's working at different venues. Has to, make sure that she's an actor, and she has to have her headshots done correctly and all those things. So she does have a lot of things she needs to do for her business, and every business is unique.
Mm-hmm.
There's no two businesses alike, even if they're in the same field of business.
Right.
They're all different, and so it's important to make those distinctions, and for the employers to properly classify their employees, and the employees to know what their rights are.
Her phone number to call is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She works nationwide. She does second opinions. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau, and her website is ArizonaCPAs.com. So let's talk a little bit before we go about LLCs, because you say that's a biggie.
Well, yeah, and that kind of branches off the employment, self-employed part. And LLC, there's a lot of misconceptions. It is a limited liability company, so it's not a limited liability corporation. I've heard some people say the C is for corporation. No, it's for company. And that is generally a state legal concept. It is not a tax concept. And so I'll say, well, how does your company report their taxes? Well, they're an LLC, people say. And I said, well, is there one owner or multiple owners? And they'll give me the answer. And I said, well, if you're one owner, you have the option of doing it as part of your individual tax return on a Schedule C, which is where you report business income and expenses, or you can elect to become an S corporation. You can also elect to become a C corporation, but almost nobody does that. Or if you have a multi-owner LLC, you would default as a partnership, but you can also elect to be an S corporation. So, you know, the LLC doesn't dictate necessarily how you do your taxes.
It's very
Yeah,
complicated.
that's more of a legal concept, but it's a concept that, you know, has been highly recommended because that saves people from certain liability. At least their business liability won't spill over to their to other aspects of their life.
Right, now,
So-
again, I wanna go back full circle from the
Uh-huh.
beginning and talk about how you help people, with knowing their numbers. You like everybody to be on, it's still on QuickBooks, I think, how do you do that? You wanna talk
Yeah,
about that?
well, most of my clients now are shifting over to QuickBooks Online, especially people that are newly starting into QuickBooks because Intuit is really not offering the desktop much anymore. I'm personally a little sad. I like the Intuit, the QuickBooks desktop. I don't like the online as much, but hey, I pride myself in learning stuff, so I've been learning the online better and better all the time, so,
But
it's
you
just.
like to help people so that they can do
Yeah.
that too?
Yeah, and so I've helped people sign up for the QuickBooks, you know, I can get them a discount and you know, do that kind of thing for them, and then help to teach them how to work it.
You know,
So-
what's really great is to have somebody like Anna who really cares. What would be
Yeah.
your final words today that you wanna get out and talk about?
Well, you know, the tax deadline is coming faster than you think.
Look at this, it's
So
already
don't,
mid-February.
you know, don't procrastinate, you know, get
Let's
ready.
talk about that for a
Yeah.
minute. There are a lot of procrastinators, but there's also a lot of people that
Yeah.
don't do their taxes, let them fall behind,
Yeah.
and sometimes very
And I
far
can help
behind.
people catch up. I'm working on some with a couple people right now. And then, yeah, so you don't wanna fall behind, but you can go on an extension. Now, extension is something important, because some people will say, oh, I have to owe, so I wanna go on an extension. Well, it'll save you a little bit of a penalty, but if you don't pay your taxes by the due date, which is April 15th, you will have penalties for not paying your taxes on time. So even if you go on extension, you need to pay in at least 90% of what you're gonna owe for that year, or 100% of your prior year taxes, and if you're even in a higher tax bracket, you need to pay 110% of your prior years. So that's something, it's important, even if you know you're not gonna get all your documents together, is to get somebody to at least do an estimation or a tax projection, as we like to call it, and what the person is going to likely owe, and so that we can help them out ahead of time. And, you know, even if you can send in a little bit, you'll save yourself some penalty.
And you also can call the IRS and talk to them. You like to do that for other people.
Oh, yes, I do that frequently, so.
Right, because you know what's wonderful is if you do it yourself, you're emotionally involved. You're not emotional, and you are all about getting them to be friends with you.
Yeah.
Tell them about that real quickly.
Yeah, I like to, you know, just get friendly with the person the agent on the other line and say, hey, I have the situation with a tax preparer, what can we do to help them? And I try to get them over on my side right away.
Yeah, and you know what, they will help, they do
Yeah.
wanna make sure that they can help you a little bit too. I know they seem like they're brutal, the IRS can be, but you know what, especially if you have somebody like Anna that's gonna help you, whether if you're behind a little bit on them, she can help you out with that as well. It's all about excellence and integrity in accounting, and that is what she is all about. She stands by her work for you as well, and she's definitely reputable because the BBB just nominated her recently for the Torch Award for excellence.
For excellence, yeah. So
So-
for integrity, yeah, torch award for integrity.
For integrity,
Yeah.
so she's all about that. Again, you could call her direct, her phone number is 480-964-4030, that's 480-964-4030. Her website is ArizonaCPAs.com. She does free consultations for people, she works nationwide. I love that she also does second opinions, also that she loves complicated returns. If you're in real estate, she also loves that as well. Again, rated with the Better Business Bureau. Go to the website. It's ArizonaCPAs.com.